Hello YouTube and Doctor Who fans, this is Time Warrior 447 with my very first Doctor Who review. Today we'll be taking a look at the 9th, 10th, and partially 11th Doctor's Sonic Screwdriver. Or as this particular one is called, the End of Time Sonic Screwdriver, as labeled on the packaging, which I do not have with me. But before we get into this marvelous review about this particular Sonic, I'm going to tell you a very long and boring story that could last hours about how I got it. Pay attention, class. There's going to be a test. It all started when... got ya. You thought I was going to do it, weren't you? No. Alright. Let's jump into this review. Okay, this is the End of Time Sonic Screwdriver, like I said 2 times before. Or you can call it Christopher Eccleston's David Tennant's Sonic Screwdriver. I don't classify this as Matt Smith's because he decides to blow it up. But since it's a re-release from an earlier version, this End of Time Sonic Screwdriver has 2 special features. This nub here is removable, although mine is super glued in because over time it becomes a nuisance to keep lodged in the Sonic Screwdriver. These things become loose over time. But this first pen nub, well, I just gave it away. It's a pen nub. You can actually write messages with it. You also get a nice ink cap to keep the ink from drying out. Now, I don't know if the pen cartridge is refillable. That would have been a nice feature to include. Moving on to the second nub, this one is a UV pen nub, or as most of you call it, a invisible ink nub. Removing the cap, you get the white iconic invisible ink nub. Also, that's what the actual nub, if you were to fit this into the Sonic Screwdriver, would look like. Moving up, you can actually see the jaws where the pen nub fits into the Sonic, and underneath these jaws is a character option sticker, so you don't have any of the legal garb actually on the Sonic itself, which is nice. Moving up here, we have this very nice cracked porcelain effect for wear and tear. You also have this ribbed section, which is nice. Very accurate to David's and some Chris's Sonic. Flipping over here, we have the extension nub, and inside the nub is a screw, which you can unscrew to get to the battery compartment. Batteries are included with the product. They are the small silver discs, and I don't know if the light can catch it. My review room's lighting is inadequate, but there is a clear piece of plastic in there with a plastic wire, which I'll show you when we extend the Sonic. Flipping it over just a tad, we have these sound effect buttons and their separator line. Now, most of you have seen the 11th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver, in which case there's a bottom button here that activates the Sonic effects when the Sonic is open. Not on this Sonic. You have to choose between which mode you want to use your Sonic in. The bottom button activates the Sonic when activates sound effects when it's in its closed position. The top button activates the sound effects when it's in its open position. Moving up more, we have the emitter jaws, or the extension jaws, sorry. Moving further up, we get these support beams, and then we have the emitter itself, which is nothing more than a UV light in colorful blue plastic. Coming back down, to the extension nub. Mine is unusually loose, so I can flick mine open, but most of you may have to actually use your finger to push it up, and this nub does lock into place. Also, the nub does come with a cover cap, although I have seemed to have lost mine. Once the Sonic is fully extended, you'll hear it click into place. You have a clear piece of plastic, which I was talking about before, from the extension groove, and you can see the twisted black piece of wire in there. Coming further up, just below the start of the support beams, we have this ball joint effect, which is pretty neat. Closing the Sonic, I'll show you now the sound effects. Since it's in its closed position, like I said before, you're going to have to use the bottom button. There are two sound effects, which I'll show you right now. This one is the second sound effect, which is a nice little humming effect. Also, the plastic lights up. Sorry. As you can see, the slight purplish glow. This sound effect that I'm playing is the standard scanning sound. That's the secondary sound effect. Okay, now an important fact. Remember when I told you that this particular Sonic is geared more toward David Tennant? It's because the Mark 6 Sonic Screwdriver is slightly different from the Mark 5. Or slightly different from Christopher Eccleston's Sonic Screwdriver. I'm sorry, I do not know if the Mark V was Tom Baker's. Anyways, on Christopher Eccleston's, these support beams, I guess you could call them, were protruding out slightly. These support beams are more ground to the emitter portion and this bottom portion here. Christopher Eccleston's, like I said before, was out here. It was its own separate little piece of plastic. Which is why I said that this is David Tennant. This one is geared more toward David Tennant. But that's pretty much it for this review. Next time I'll be taking a look at the City of Death collector set with Tom Baker. Let me know if you want to see it. Once again, this has been Timer447.